Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Matt Williams. I'm a tutor in politics here at Jesus College at the University of Oxford. Now, how well do you know stuff? How much stuff do you know? It's an important and interesting question because I'm quite often asked, how much stuff do you need to know to get into Oxford? Do you need to be a know-it-all? Well, the answer to that is definitely not, and for two important reasons. The first of which is that you can't know it all, and it's questionable whether we know anything in a great amount of detail. There's a quote attributed to Socrates, the Greek philosopher, which goes along the lines of, the only thing I know is that I don't know anything at all. It's a paradox, but it's a really important paradox because it hints at the fact that there are so few facts we can be absolutely sure of. So we might be very confident that the sun will rise tomorrow and that planes won't just drop out of the sky, but a lot of those facts are contingent on patterns that we assume will just continue, but we don't necessarily know those things for sure. So first of all, it's impossible to be a know-it-all. Secondly, knowing a lot of stuff is not actually that difficult. It's harder to develop new thoughts. It's harder to evaluate ideas. It's harder, in other words, to think and analyze, and so that's why in our admissions processes we tend to prioritize thinking over knowing. So if you want to imagine it differently, we're looking for think-it-alls, not know-it-alls at Oxford. Okay, so how can you develop your thinking skills? Because you absolutely can. Thinking is a skill like any other, like cooking, like basketball, like dancing, so you can practice it and you can get better at it. So let's try it out. I mean, there's a particular thinking technique which is relatively easy to pick up. In fact, you've already demonstrated it once in your life, almost certainly. So first of all, what I'd like you to do is to look at something that you supposedly know very well. There's an old saying that if you know something well, then you know it like the back of your hand. So why don't you take a look at the back of your hand and try and notice something you've never seen before. So try and find something new in the back of your hand. All right, so have a good old look. You might want to pause the video and really sort of get in there, see what you can find out. Okay. Now, chances are you probably noticed some new creases, some blemishes, maybe a mole or something like that, which is all fine. It's all a fresh observation. But in terms of sort of thinking more deeply about stuff, the trick is to behave a lot more childishly, to behave a little bit like a 5-year-old young child. Because what young children do is that they don't assume they know anything. They go into almost everything in life assuming they know nothing. Like Socrates, right? They're going around the world thinking, I don't know anything, so I'm just going to ask loads of questions. I'm going to ask questions like, why is the sky blue? And why is gold yellow when most other metals are silver in colour? And cool stuff like that. My own 5-year-old son asked me the other day, does your phone get heavier every time you take a photo with it? Which honestly kept me up quite a long time in the night trying to work out the answer, and because it's brilliant, right? It's the sort of thing where as we grow older we stop having that inquisitiveness because we start to assume we know stuff and we take a lot of that knowledge for granted, when actually we could be doing more thinking about everything around us and we could be stopping and slowing down and actually sort of considering. So try the exercise again. Take a look at the back of your hand, but this time rather than just sort of looking for stuff, ask questions, right? Be more like a child and see what you notice this time. See what sort of details strike you. It doesn't need to be necessarily just specific to your hand. You can think about hands generally, okay? So have a try, maybe pause the video, see what you come up with. All right. Now the sorts of things, now I've done this exercise with quite a few people and we've had some incredibly creative and interesting responses, including, why do we have a back of the hand at all? Why are our hands asymmetric? Now, of course, that sort of leads us on to considering grip and the opposability of our thumb, which is so important, right? I mean, our anthropology and our evolution has given us the capacity to yield and exploit tools with our hands, which is fundamental to our capacity to control various environments. But that's interesting, right? Because other animals might not so obviously have a clear inside-outside on one of their limbs. Think about a whale. That it would have an inside of its flipper, but it's not going to do a vastly different job to the outside. It's just providing sort of propulsion. Then you can start asking things like, well, why do we have that many digits? And why are the knuckles situated where they are? And why do we have that many knuckles? And indeed, why do we have digits at all? What are the evolutionary steps that led to this configuration as a sort of a tool manipulating implement that we have? Why don't we have like a claw, or why don't we have even like biomechanical wheels? Somehow we could have evolved some sort of furry wheel. I mean, I don't know. I know this sounds slightly mad, but it's just getting to think about the world around us in a much more childlike and creative way. And it's just a trick. And the trick is to just remember that we don't know anything absolutely for certain, and therefore we're on much safer ground asking lots of questions. And ultimately, when you apply to a university like Oxford, you're not going to be tested on facts. You're not going to be given a big old quiz with lots and lots of facts that you need to demonstrate you know, because knowing facts isn't actually that hard. But thinking, that's the real skill, and that's what we will seek to develop in our undergraduate students. So start practicing it, because it is just a skill. It's not something you're born with necessarily. It's something that you can practice and you can get better at. So try and work out how much you actually know the back of your hand. Thanks so much for watching. Do give me some comments in the description as to what you come up with on the backs of your hands, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.